The weapon maintenance bay was designated as off-limits to civilians, yet there she was, an unassuming woman in casual attire, dismantling a Barrett 050. With a skill that suggested years of training, Commander Donovan Storm observed from the doorway as she methodically cleaned each piece with exacting care. "Ma'am, you're not cleared to handle that equipment," he called out. She didn't even glance up, nor did she pause her work. "I know," she replied softly, continuing to polish the barrel. That's when Storm's stomach sank. The Naval Special Warfare Command Facility at Dam Neck, Virginia, followed stringent protocols that required multiple clearances just for access to the building, even for seasoned personnel. The weapon maintenance bay, situated in the most secure area of the facility, demanded biometric scans, keycard access, and accompaniment by authorized staff, making the sight of an unauthorized civilian even more perplexing. Storm had been heading to his office after a briefing when something caught his eye. In the maintenance bay, through the reinforced glass window, he spotted a figure working on a specialized table, handling some of the most sensitive military equipment. His experience, 50 years in the field, instantly told him something was wrong. The woman appeared to be in her early 30s, her auburn hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore civilian attire, dark slacks and a plain white blouse, the kind of outfit one might expect for an office job, not for military operations. Her movements, though, were fluid and skilled, each gesture deliberate as she meticulously worked on the disassembled rifle. It was the weapon itself that sent a chill through Storm. Even from the doorway, he could clearly make out the outline of a Barrett, 82 A150 caliber, sniper rifle, one of the military's most restricted and classified weapons. These rifles weren't just top secret, they were treated with the same level of caution and scrutiny as nuclear materials. Storm stepped into the maintenance bay, his boots reverberating on the cold concrete floor. The woman paid him no mind, her hands continuing their work, expertly cleaning the rifle's bolt as if it were second nature. "Ma'am, you're not authorized to handle that equipment," he repeated, his voice firm and commanding. The same tone that had earned respect from Navy SEALs across 3 different combat zones. Still, she didn't look up. Her hands moved with deliberate speed, polishing each piece to a mirror-like finish before carefully setting it down. "I know," she replied, almost absently as she continued to clean the barrel. Her calm admission hit Storm like a punch. In all his years of service, he had never encountered anyone who so casually acknowledged their violation of military protocol while continuing with their unauthorized actions. "Then step away from that weapon immediately, and tell me how you managed to access this facility." "I walked in," she said, using a specialized tool to clean the rifle's chamber with flawless expertise. Storm's jaw tightened in frustration. The woman's tone was casual, almost too relaxed, as if they were having a friendly chat, instead of discussing a grave breach of military protocol. "Ma'am, this is a restricted zone," Storm said, his voice firm. "That rifle requires top-secret clearance and SCI access." "Yes," she responded without looking up. "Sensitive compartmented information. I'm well acquainted with the classification levels." Her familiarity with the highest clearance terms only made the situation feel more surreal. Storm quickly scanned the room to confirm they were alone. Then, he activated the electronic lock to ensure no one could walk in on them. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows this rifle needs to be perfectly calibrated. Within the next 4 hours." Storm watched as she examined the weapon's scope with the precision of someone who had spent decades mastering their craft. Her movements were efficient, deliberate, and radiated professionalism. "That doesn't answer my question." "It's the only answer that matters right now." Storm had faced enemy combatants, foreign agents, and uncooperative prisoners of war, but he'd never encountered anyone who carried such an air of calm expertise while blatantly disregarding military authority. "I'll ask you one more time. Who are you? And how did you gain access to that weapon?" The woman finally looked up, meeting his gaze with unwavering confidence. Her dark brown eyes, nearly black, held the kind of steadiness Storm had only seen in battle-hardened veterans who had operated on the highest, secretive missions. "Commander Storm," she said, using his name even though he hadn't introduced himself. "Before you make any calls or raise any alarms, you should check the maintenance log for this specific rifle." The fact that she knew his name sent an instant chill through Storm. His position was classified, and his presence at this facility was not publicly disclosed. "How do you know my name?" "The same way I know you've been wondering why this particular Barrett hasn't been properly serviced in 8 months." Storm felt the ground beneath him shift. The woman was spot on. He had indeed been concerned about the maintenance schedule for certain weapons in their inventory, including that specific rifle, but the details were buried in highly classified reports that only those with Admiral-level clearance could access. "The maintenance log for this weapon is classified," Storm stated, his voice betraying a hint of disbelief. "Terminal 7 access code. Delta 77 Alpha," the woman said, refocusing on the rifle's trigger mechanism. "Password is your mother's maiden name, followed by the year you completed Bud's training." Webb froze, his mind reeling. The access codes she'd just recited were known to fewer than 6 individuals in the entire Navy, and they were updated monthly with a protocol, requiring direct authorization from Naval Special Warfare Command. "That's impossible." "Terminal 7, Commander. Check the log." Despite every protocol and instinct, honed over 15 years of military service, Webb found himself walking toward the maintenance bay's computer terminal. He hesitated but entered his access codes. The system accepted his credentials, unlocking the menu for classified weapon systems. He typed in the code she'd given him. Instantly, a file appeared that he'd never seen before. Barrett M82A1, serial 23847, Special Operations Deployment Record. Webb's heart skipped a beat as he read the details on screen. The weapon's status active. Deployment classified. User redacted. Service record 73 confirmed eliminations. Maximum engagement range 3,247 meters. Last maintenance 8 months 12 days ago. Next scheduled deployment classified. Maintenance authorization level 5 clearance required. He read it again, his mind struggling to process the data. 73 confirmed kills, with a range over 3,200 meters, the longest confirmed sniper kill in modern warfare was just under 3,600 meters, achieved by a Canadian sniper in Afghanistan with similar equipment. But it was the maintenance record that sent a cold wave through him. The rifle hadn't been properly serviced in over 8 months, yet it was scheduled for use in an operation in the near future. "This is impossible," Webb muttered under his breath, though his belief in the limits of what was possible was beginning to unravel. "What's impossible?" the woman asked, her voice still calm and focused, as she continued her meticulous cleaning of the rifle, the engagement record for this weapon. Webb replied, his voice edged with disbelief. "No one makes consistent shots at 3,200 meters. The ballistic factors alone, muzzle velocity 853 meters per second, bullet drop at 3,247 meters around 68 feet. Wind drift calculations need real-time atmospheric data," she said without lifting her eyes from her work. "Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and target movement all play a crucial role in the final firing solution." Commander Donovan Storm felt the ground shift beneath him. She spoke of ballistic calculations at extreme range with the ease of someone who had done it endlessly in combat situations. "You're talking about shots that demand a mathematical precision beyond what most people think is even possible," she finished. "Yes, the user file is completely redacted. I'm aware. If this is your weapon, then you're someone whose identity is classified well above your current clearance," she said in a calm tone. "Someone whose operations are compartmentalized to safeguard national security and the people involved." Commander Donovan Storm stared at the computer screen, then at the woman carefully cleaning what appeared to be her personal sniper rifle. Everything he thought he knew about military procedures, clearance levels, and who was authorized in this facility was starting to unravel. "What's your real name?" "I'm Tess Valen, a civilian contractor specializing in precision equipment maintenance." She held up a cleaning rod, which is exactly what I'm doing. "Tomorrow, I'll be whoever needs to be behind this rifle when the shot needs to be made." The cryptic answer was clearly all he was going to get. Commander Donovan Storm found himself at a crossroads that could define the rest of his military career. He could follow standard procedure, call security, and create an incident that would likely lead to congressional hearings and end his career. Or he could trust his gut, which told him that this woman was part of something far beyond his clearance or understanding. "Tess Valen," he said after a pause, "for the next few hours." "Why are you really here?" Tess Valen set down her cleaning tools and met his gaze with those unsettling, dark eyes. "Because this rifle needs to be flawless for an operation that officially isn't happening. To eliminate a threat that officially doesn't exist." "What kind of operation?" "The kind where missing the shot means American personnel won't make it home." Commander Donovan Storm felt that familiar cold rush, the same sensation he had before high-risk missions, where the stakes were life and death. Tess Valen spoke about extreme range precision, shooting with the quiet confidence of someone who had operated at the highest levels of classified missions. "Are you telling me there's a black operation plan that requires I'm telling you that this rifle needs to be ready, she interrupted. And right now it's not. Commander Donovan Storm watched her resume her meticulous maintenance routine. Each movement practiced and efficient. She wasn't just cleaning a weapon. She was preparing for something that demanded absolute precision under impossible conditions. How long have you been using this specific rifle? Long enough to know its ballistic signature under every possible environmental condition. The record shows 73 confirmed eliminations. The record shows what it's allowed to show. The implication was clear. The official count represented only a fraction of her actual operational history. Commander Donovan Storm tried to process the reality that he was possibly dealing with one of the most effective snipers in military history, operating under classification levels so high that her existence could be officially denied. Tess Valen, he said carefully, I need to understand the scope of what's happening here. What's happening is equipment maintenance, Commander. Nothing more complex than ensuring this rifle performs exactly as designed when it's needed most. But the operation tomorrow will require someone to make a shot that most people would consider impossible. And when that moment comes, this weapon will be ready. The quiet certainty in her voice was more convincing than any mission, briefing, or intelligence assessment Commander Donovan Storm had ever received. He had spent enough time in combat operations to distinguish between confidence and competence. Tess Valen possessed both in extraordinary measure. Is there anything I can do to assist? Tess Valen looked up, and for the first time since their encounter began, she smiled. It was a subtle expression, barely visible, but it completely transformed her demeanor. You can ensure this conversation never happened. And if someone inquires about the rifle maintenance, tell them it was performed by properly authorized personnel. You're not authorized. Commander Donovan Storm, Tess Valen said, returning to her precise work. Authorization is administrative paperwork. Capability is what saves lives. Commander Donovan Storm found himself nodding, though he wasn't entirely sure why. Everything about the situation was in direct violation of every protocol he'd learned in 15 years of military service. But something deeper than regulations was telling him to trust this enigmatic woman. The 3,200-meter shot, he said after a moment. Is that actually achievable? Tess Valen paused in her cleaning, holding up a component to examine it for microscopic imperfections. At 3,247 meters, through variable crosswinds with a target moving at inconsistent speeds across uneven terrain, accounting for altitude differential, temperature gradient, and atmospheric density. She set the component down and met his gaze directly. It was the only solution that prevented a diplomatic catastrophe. Jesus! Divine intervention wasn't available that day, Tess Valen replied with understated humor. So I had to handle the situation personally. Despite the gravity of their conversation, Commander Donovan Storm found himself laughing. The tension that had been building since he first discovered her began to ease, replaced by professional respect for someone who could maintain composure while discussing impossible military operations. How many people know about your actual capabilities? As few as operationally necessary. And how many people need to know? Even fewer. Commander Donovan Storm nodded, understanding the implicit requirement for absolute discretion. Whatever Tess Valen's true identity and operational history were, they required the kind of compartmentalization that could only be maintained through strict limitation of access. The mission tomorrow, he said. Will it be high risk? Commander, everything I do involves risk levels that would terrify most people. Tomorrow simply represents a higher degree of complexity than usual. For you personally, for everyone whose lives depend on my accuracy. Tess Valen began reassembling the Barrett with the same fluid precision. She'd used to dismantle it. Commander Donovan Storm watched, fascinated by the speed and efficiency of her movements. Each component fit into place with mechanical perfection, the result of countless hours of practice and intimate familiarity with the weapon system. The reassembly process revealed the true extent of her expertise. She didn't just know how the rifle functioned. She understood its mechanical soul. Every adjustment was made with the precision of someone who had fired thousands of rounds through this exact weapon. Someone who knew how temperature changes affected barrel harmonics, how different ammunition lots performed under varying atmospheric conditions. You know, Commander Donovan Storm said, in 15 years of military service, I've never encountered anyone with your level of capabilities. Most people haven't, Tess Valen replied. Is that intentional? That's survival. The rifle was nearly complete now, transformed from scattered components back into a precision instrument capable of reaching out and touching targets. At distances most people couldn't even see clearly. Tess Valen worked without consulting any technical manual or reference guide. Every specification was permanently stored in her memory. As she made final adjustments to the scope mounting system, Commander Donovan Storm noticed something that had escaped his attention earlier. Her hands bore the subtle calluses and scars that marked a professional operator, trigger fingers slightly flattened from countless hours of shooting. Small cuts on her knuckles from field-stripping weapons under adverse conditions, the kind of hands that belonged to someone who lived by precision and preparation. Tess Valen, can I ask you something personal? You can ask. Do you ever question the psychological cost of what you do? Tess Valen paused, her hand stilling on the rifle stock. For a moment, Commander Donovan Storm saw something vulnerable in her expression, a brief glimpse of the human being beneath the professional operator facade. Every time I pull the trigger, she said quietly. But questioning the cost doesn't change the necessity. And what makes tomorrow necessary? Someone who threatens American. Interest needs to be permanently removed from the equation. The cold precision of her statement reminded Commander Donovan Storm exactly who he was dealing with. Tess Valen might appear to be a civilian contractor, but she was a weapon as finely calibrated as the Barrett rifle she was preparing. Will you be safe? Safety isn't a luxury people in my position can afford, but you'll complete the mission successfully. Tess Valen looked at him with an expression that combined gratitude and sadness. Commander Donovan Storm, people like me don't measure success by survival. We measure it by mission completion and the lives we save by taking the shot others can't make. The rifle was fully assembled now, appearing exactly as it had when Commander Donovan Storm first spotted Tess Valen working on it. But he knew it was fundamentally different, calibrated, adjusted, and prepared for whatever impossible task awaited it. Is there anything else you require? Commander Donovan Storm asked. Just your discretion and your trust. You have both. Tess Valen stood, shouldering the Barrett's carrying case with practiced ease. The complete weapon system weighed over 30 pounds, but she handled it as if it were an extension of her own body. Commander Donovan Storm, she said, extending her hand. He shook it, noting the calluses that indicated extensive weapons training, and the steady grip that conveyed absolute confidence under pressure. Tess Valen, he replied. It's been a privilege meeting you. The privilege was mine. And Tess Valen, yes? Make the shot count. She smiled again. That same subtle expression that hinted at depths and experiences he would never fully comprehend. Every shot counts. Commander Donovan Storm, tomorrow's just happens to count for more than most. With that statement, she turned and walked toward the maintenance bay exit, moving with the quiet efficiency of someone accustomed to operating in shadows and classified spaces. Commander Donovan Storm watched until she disappeared beyond the security checkpoint, leaving him alone with questions that would never receive official answers. He returned to the computer terminal and reviewed the rifle service record one final time. 73 confirmed eliminations. Maximum engagement range 3,247 meters. Statistics that represented lives ended, and missions completed by someone whose existence was officially classified beyond acknowledgement. Commander Donovan Storm closed the file and initiated the security protocol to erase all access records for this session. Whatever Tess Valen was planning for tomorrow, whatever impossible shot she might need to make, it would happen without any official documentation or recognition. But he would remember. He would carry the memory of a woman who maintained a rifle like a sacred ritual and discussed 3,000 meter shots as routine operational requirements. 36 hours later, international news would report the elimination of a high-value terrorist target during a failed attack on American diplomatic personnel. The reports would credit coalition special operations forces and provide no details about how the elimination had been achieved from an impossible distance under impossible conditions. Commander Donovan Storm would watch the news coverage and think about a woman named Tess Valen who didn't officially exist, carrying a rifle that had never been deployed, making shots that defied mathematical probability. And he would classify this encounter alongside all the other compartmentalized experiences that defined military service at the highest levels of national security. Some secrets were worth protecting. Some people were worth shielding, even when protecting them meant pretending they had never existed at all. In the official maintenance log, the entry for that day would show routine service, performed by authorized personnel. No names, no details. No trace of the conversation that had fundamentally altered Commander Donovan Storm's understanding of the invisible operations conducted in defense of American interests. Tess Valen would join the ranks of ghost stories, whispered among special operations personnel. The sniper who could make impossible shots, who appeared and disappeared like smoke, who carried secrets that could never be shared. And somewhere in the world, a Barrett 50 caliber rifle would be waiting for the next time someone needed to reach out and eliminate a threat at 200 meters. Because some problems could only be solved from very, very far away by someone who officially had never been there at all. The weapon would rest in secure storage, maintained to perfection, ready for the next impossible mission that would never appear in any official record, carried out by operators, whose names were written in classified ink on documents that would be destroyed the moment their missions were complete. In the shadows of national security, some stories were never meant to be told, and some heroes were never meant to be known.